Hello and welcome to our Wednesday workshop. We are continuing to look at checking for understanding and addressing when students have misconceptions and how to use that in our lesson planning and our lesson design. But today we're going to specifically look at pivoting and changing in the moment. So when we can identify that students just aren't getting it, they aren't following along with where we want them to be, and how we can do that quickly. And so the technique that we're going to look at today is standardizing the format. So let's take a quick look at the definition. Doug Limov says that it is streamlining observations by designing materials and space so that you're looking in the same consistent place every time for the data you need. Okay, so that seems a little complicated. Let's look at exactly how we do that and how we set that up. So number one, the first thing that you want to do is plan ahead to create documents or settings or whatever it is that you need in your classroom to have those consistent places. So, for instance, in the documents, you might have a specific way that you want students to answer questions in the document or respond to reading in the document. But you need to plan ahead so that you can have those documents. You may set up your classroom in a specific way so that you can see certain students or position students in a way to best get feedback from them. Or you may need materials. And so you want to plan ahead and make sure that those are ready to go. And the second thing is that you will want to teach students where and how to respond. A lot of times we assume that students will kind of figure out and can identify where and how to respond. But unfortunately, they need a lot of push and a lot of focus and a lot of practice to do that correctly. So, are you wanting them to answer in the margin of a page? Are you wanting them to answer in a certain color? Do you want them to highlight something or underline something, circle, bold the text? Do you want them to make comments on a Google Doc? Do you want them to share in the chat box? How do you want them to respond, and where do you want them to respond, so that you know exactly where to look to get their thinking in the moment? And again, that takes repetition and practice for them, over and over again, telling them your expectations and showing them and positively highlighting, hey, great job answering in this way. And then finally, number three, you can use things like daily packets or graphic organizers so that students aren't left to figure out where to respond. So sometimes we say, oh, use a piece of paper or create your own document or whatever, but students don't necessarily know the best way to organize their thinking. And if it's not in a consistent format for you as the teacher to view it, you can't get that instant real-time data gathering. If you click here on the slide, which of course I will be posting the slide for you in our Google Classroom, but if you click there, you can see an example daily packet for a class that is reading Lord of the Flies. And this example is probably definitely a blocked class, so like at least 2 periods, probably more. But it is a packet that the students work through, and the teacher can quickly identify the responses and know exactly where to look to see student thinking. All right, so let's see this in action. We're going to be looking at Miss Ruler, and she has standardized the format, and you can click in this link here to look at the exact worksheet that she gave her students. But we're going to see how she is able to see the thinking and the learning of every student in the class multiple times in this clip very easily because she standardized the format.
excellent justification. Flip the page, please. First word today is disposition. Say it. Disposition. One more time. Disposition. Read the example at the top for us, please, Kayla. Naturally. Disposition. Energetic. Predict the definition in 10, 9, so you use it appropriately. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm seeing a lot that are talking about having good characteristics. This is actually a neutral word. Circle neutral. Jeremy, what are you thinking? Yes, great use of context clues. What it is it's a person's usual attitude or mood. Love that quick note taking. And it's a noun. So in Miss High's example, she does have a happy disposition. It's positive here, but it's not always positive. Shalmer, since you're done with your notes, read the similar to and different because, please. Pause there. Make sure you have disposition underlined. And let's think about this question. Why might someone who skips breakfast develop a cranky disposition by lunchtime? Go ahead, reaching get started on your own. Great restate from Shalimar, making sure she uses the word. Finish up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Read your sentence, please, Crystal. Like when you have a cranky disposition, rephrase. Take a look at the picture on the bottom. How could you write a caption about this woman's disposition? Go ahead and give it a try. Michaela's starting with, you can tell this woman has a blank disposition. Okay, that works. Because the way you had it as a disposition, I would probably say she probably has a blank disposition. To be using it the right way. Friends, I'm going to ask you to revise your sentences. I see a lot of good ideas about how.
All right. So we saw her able to quickly identify whole class misconceptions, and she was able to kind of modify in the moment to address those. And then she also saw individual students who were struggling with a misconception or almost there, needing some help with rephrasing. And so she was able to check in with every single student and get their feedback. And I believe she had a really good understanding of where her students were in the moment. So she didn't have to wait till the end of the lesson. And obviously, she has done a lot of teaching of expectations and reinforcing those expectations because they're very well behaved. Okay, so there's some benefits to using standardizing the format. And the first one, which is the one we've been talking about most, is that it's real time data gathering. You don't have to wait. You don't have to hope that they'll get it and then go and waste an entire day or class period and not see that they haven't gotten it until the end. Um, the second is that you can check for understanding while students work. So there's no lost time. We saw in the video that she was able to move around in, well, she said it was 10 seconds or 20 seconds or whatever. Her counting was a little slow. She made that work for her so that she could ensure that she got to every single student, but it was while they were doing work. And so the benefit of this is that there's no opportunity for students to disengage and then have to re-engage. They were working. She was able to see their thinking, even though it was very quiet. And of course, number three, she was able to check in with all students. Also, number four, she disrupted students less. So instead of having to ask a question of, hey, what do you think? Or take their paper from them to flip through, or ask them, where did you answer this question, or where did you write down the definition? She knew exactly where to look, so she could look and see their thinking without interrupting them. Now, sometimes she did because there was misconception, but that's a good disruption, right? So if they were on the right track, she never had to stop their thinking. And then for her own thinking, number five, she could focus on the responses and focus on the student thinking and not locating the answers. All right, so that's all well and good if you have a classroom where all of the students are sitting close together and you're actually in a classroom. But we are doing remote learning at the moment. Then we're going to move to hybrid learning. But the end result is we're going to land, once COVID land is no more, in a blended learning model. Students have access to technology. Teachers have been thrust into technology, whether they liked it or not. And so we now have the opportunity to integrate technology into our daily teaching. And so some benefits of the blended learning model in using this for standardizing the format is there's no lost work. So it's really cool because it's hard to check in on a student's thinking on paper if they've lost the paper. But if it's digital, it doesn't get lost. Even if they delete it, you can recreate it really quickly, or we can find it in the archives. Second is you can create a copy for each student. And you do that in Google Classroom when you attach worksheets. There's an opportunity for each student to be able to edit, for them to only be able to view it, or you can create a copy for each student. That means they have their own individual worksheet that is attached to Google Classroom and is already in your Google Drive. And so that goes on to number three, which is you can view their work in real time. So inside Google Classroom, if you give a copy to each student, you can look at their documents as they are typing on them. And so you can flip through multiple documents. They are stored also in your Google Drive in a folder called Classroom. So you have lots of access to the student work and you can view them without them even knowing you're viewing them. And while you're doing that, you can see revisions and changes. If you need help identifying how to look at student revisions and the changes that they've made, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to walk you through that. And you can attach comments. So you can do written comments by highlighting text and adding a comment in the margin, and students can read what you have to say. But we know that they struggle with written. So you can actually leave verbal comments. And that is using an extension called Mote. And in this presentation, I have linked the Mote extension. But what it allows you to do is when you create a comment, much like a written one, there will be a little purple M symbol that pops up, and you click that, and you can record your voice. So you can talk and speak out the changes or misconceptions, or give even positive feedback. How great is that, right? Like, awesome job. I love the way that you said this, or whatever. So you can give feedback in real time to individual students while they are working. So finally, if you have questions, there's my email, there's my phone number. Please do not hesitate to email, send me a text, give me a call if you have questions. If you want to meet one-on-one so we can go through some of this material, or if you need help with extensions or comments or working with Google Docs, click on the link where it says click here, and you can see my calendar and book an appointment with me, and I will meet with you. I'm happy to do that. But I wanted to remind you, as my Bitmoji says, you are the real MVPs. You guys are doing really great work with students and stretching yourselves and learning a lot. So give yourselves a pat on the back for all that you are doing. And thank you for taking the time to go through our Wednesday workshops. And I hope that it helps you connect with students and makes your job a little less difficult. All right, have a great week.